I find myself very short-tempered with philosophy and Gyan at that point of time.
True.
So my question to you is, since you have been, you've spoken of both things, to find a philosophy that relates to you in a manner that you find that you want to go deeper. Now, this going deeper, do you have a process? Do you internalize something? Have you come to a point where it helps you deal with life better? What is it that you really do? I mean, practically. So a lot of people were into chanting. There was this phase that a lot of my friends were into this some kind of Buddhist chanting, and it
Yeah,
helped.
Nichiren Buddhism,
Huh. So a
Soka
lot,
Gakkai,
yeah,
SGI.
yeah, SGI. So a lot of them were there. They have benefited. Very few of them have stuck on with it. Some of them have moved on. But my question to you is, what is it that one has to do in your case if you had to personalize this? You picked up the philosophy, but there are enough number of people who know much more about Buddhism than you and I know, but they seem to be incapable with dealing with real life. And at the same time, somebody lesser than us in terms of knowledge of any kind of thing, but they take it as it comes. And you are like, "Hey, this guy is so wise and he doesn't know any of these tenets or philosophies or not even stories sometimes. They are just life hai, to jaisa hai. Like the line in our religion is Tera bhana meetha lage. So whatever makes you happy makes me happy, kind of thought
Hmm.
towards God. So very few people that I've seen, but there are people. They are not very knowledgeable in terms of giving huge philosophy, but they are living their truth and they are really admirable. So, is there something that you did from the point of learning about it to bringing it in your real life scenario? Or did something happen on its own where you realized, okay, I started to find more depth in uh, in what I was already doing?
Hmm. I think because I've always been a reader and fond and quite oriented towards reflection, so you do kind of read and you try to apply what is said in your own context and your own life and circumstances that you see around you. So as we tend to do, I actually started with a lot of reading on psychology and trying to understand through psychology, etc. But then slowly I gravitated more and more towards Buddhism because I found its teachings appealed hugely to me, and I found its logic very appealing. But I attended a 10-day introduction to Buddhism program at Tushita in Dharamshala.
Okay.
Then I read different bits and pieces and different kinds of teachings. I used to, I don't meditate as seriously anymore, that I kind of go through phases of more intense and better practice and then I don't do it and then I come back. I don't have that much discipline, I think. But I think the main thing for me has been it's not just reading. You have to reflect deeply upon the reading and in your own life context. So, for example, I'm saying Buddhist teaching says the four gems that you cultivate, right? That you have those, no? So, Karuna, Mudita,
Yeah.
Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeka, right?
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just read it. You have to think deeply about where have you seen it in your everyday life, and when you are put into a situation, where am I responding from and where is this coming from? And then if you were to see it through the lens of this, am I really doing it or not? And if I am not, why am I not? So it is, you have to take, at least for me, so, like, if you asked me to narrate all the various teachings, etc., I wouldn't be able to. But the core teachings which have made sense to me, I
Yes.
know them, I understand them, I can explain them, I can tell you in 20 different ways where and how it applies. So, I think that level of uh, reflection and matching your reading with your life, with your own experience of life. If you don't do that and you don't meditate on it, and meditation in Buddhism at the core is actually a practice of reflection, of taming your mind, calming it, slowing it down so that you can actually see more clearly and you can reflect more deeply upon a teaching. So if you are not able to practice that at all, then I think you might know a lot at an intellectual level, but it will not show up in lived level. So
Yeah.
you might be able to sit and give lots of gyan about this, that, blah, blah, blah. But then the moment somebody gets up and speaks rudely to you or badly to you or something doesn't happen, you'll have that, that sharp rise of anger, and then, it'll come out. So if you want to conquer, or if you want to actually live in a more enlightened way, you have to do these things. But it is a combination of reading, reflection, meditation. It is making the time and whatever to do it as a discipline. But I don't sit down every morning and meditate and keep a book and reflect on the previous day, and I don't do it as systematically. But every now and then you do make the time to pause, reflect, think back, bring into bear, question how you responded to somebody, how you reacted in a particular situation, what made you do it, could you have done it differently and better, you know
Yeah.
and just simple things like, okay, don't cause pain to others, don't be a cause of suffering. So if even inadvertently you did it, then, did you apologize, what did you do, did you think of a make good, and did you actually do it? So it is a so I mean, that Buddhist line which says, no, after they have a very that like this, for the realization and that momentary thing, it will pass. It doesn't put you in permanently in some state of heightened enlightenment that from then on, every day, every moment, you will now start behaving from that perspective. You will not. So like they said, before enlightenment, chop wood, fetch water. After enlightenment, chop wood, fetch water. So that certain mundaneness of everyday life, it is there. So then how do you carry that into that mundaneness is really practice, discipline.
Yeah. So I
I
think,
don't think there's any getting away from that.
yeah, the hard work is always going to be there.
Yes, the hard work is required. The, I don't like to use the term conquering your mind because it makes it very militaristic and aggressive. I don't think you can conquer and tame your mind and all these sort of analogies and metaphors. I don't think actually what it's about. But if you have to have that awakening and then you have that deeper understanding, and that leads to a kind of deep acceptance, for those things. And when you have that level of deep acceptance, then your mind becomes calm in itself.
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
have to conquer it, and you don't have to control it, and you don't have to tame it, and you don't have to do all these, you know, aggressive things.
that's true. Uh, this reminded me of a small thing that started happening once I started the values workshop, since we were talking values throughout week after week. So often at times when I would have screamed at someone or did something, the only question I asked myself, would you do this on camera next week? So
Mm,
you're putting
mm,
on your best face forward, but
yeah,
there is this wonderful play called Arms and the Man by George Bernard Shaw, where he's
yeah, yeah.
mentioned that all of us have different kind of faces, and a guy
Mm,
who's seemingly having an affair with someone else and he's engaged to
mm,
somebody else, and he's also
mm,
he ran away from the battlefield, but he's seen as
mm,
a hero because the moment the army came back, he again started leading it, acting as if he was the one who led them to victory. So
mm,
he asked himself, what would the hero of the battle think of this loser who is actually having an affair with
Mm.
someone else. Uh,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I found was very interesting because we really do have a lot of faces, and
Mm.
this keeps happening to me on a very small level every now and then, where I question, would you be up to it? Like, this is what you claim, that this is your truth, this is what you understood on an intellectual level, and one has, but the practice to reach there is always a journey that takes a longer time. And you're right. I think
Yes.
every time being aggressive does not help, because internally, if you are agitated, it doesn't matter what you're agitated about.
Mm-hmm.
Agitation has its own chemical formations inside, and it affects you physically and mentally in a certain manner, time and again.
Yep.
So the idea of
Yep.
acceptance also mellows down the entire uh, warlike scenario that we create with every event in life.
Mm.
One little thing that I would want to perhaps end with is, we started this conversation on, is sacrifice outdated? But as we went on speaking, and we went away from the topic in the words that we mentioned, I realized that every episode that you spoke of was a sacrifice that life brought upon you, not
Mm.
necessarily chosen by you in that moment or not understood by you in that moment, but at the same time, because you gave it a context, you worked upon it, you worked upon yourself, instead of just being why me and end it there, because that is also a way of just blaming the circumstance, blaming life, blaming God, blaming nature, whatever it is that you believe in. You did not stop there. You allowed yourself to relook at your ability to handle it. You know, although you've been saying you don't practice every day, but I think this constant reflection upon, am I the best that I can be in this situation? Did I act in a manner which will not hurt or harm anyone? So all kinds of sacrifices are still happening. We may have forgotten why and what. Life is actually beyond time and space in that sense. The problems that the human beings grappled with in earlier times haven't really changed. We are still in survival mode most of the time, and yet there is, through the beautiful episodes of personal and universal nature that you mentioned, they keep affecting us. And if we put in enough effort to understand them, uh, taking a step away from the event itself or ourselves also, to see what is the possibility, what is at work here. And one of my favorite examples is, billions of years the earth has been functioning. It didn't need a Bunty. So what's the big
Mm.
deal about creating such a big fuss about, okay, if Bunty is not there,
Mm-hmm.
what will happen? Or if he has a certain loss
Mm.
in money or family or this.
Mm.
It doesn't seem to matter. The earth functions, and
Mm.
it's okay to have that
Mm.
perspective, because it takes you away from your myopic existence.
Correct. Your narcissistic sort of my pain is like the ultimate pain.
Yeah. So I think
Mm.
that is a good value that came up for me every now and then. You reflect, you wait, you pause, you try and understand. Also, one thing that you did not mention, but that comes clearly because your earlier episode of facing your parents' death was when you were far more younger. But again,
Mm.
13, 23, and now around, say, a couple of years back. So you've had these constant reminders, and the Hamsini that saw it at 13 was not the same Hamsini that saw it at 23, and is of course not the Hamsini who saw it later again. So in that
Mm.
sense, you have interweaved your experiences, mixing the good and the bad very nicely, because you are not sounding negative throughout the interview. That is a big deal to have, because
Yeah. So
otherwise, what?
this that's why I said no Buddhism, the teaching of impermanence, it it is you have to confront it at some point.
Yeah,
So
liberating.
hmm. But to your point about sacrifice
Hmm.
and the term sacrifice, so I guess, and in relation to the way I think or have thought about my life so far, like till you put it like this, that I have had to sacrifice many things because life made it that way. Uh, but I never phrased it in my mind as using the term sacrifice, right? I've phrased it as events have happened and I've had to deal with it. Not so much that I have actually had to sacrifice and give up so many things which other people take for granted and is just normal for them. But so I'm just going back to think about this question, and as a semiotician, linguist, language and how we label things, and because we label them in certain ways, what then we construct as narratives around them. So
Yeah.
to me, like, sacrifice is something that you choose. Then it's you voluntarily and willingly give it up, then it's a sacrifice. So that is tyag. But if it is forced upon you by circumstances on which you had no control, then is it, like, I wouldn't label it as sacrifice, but there is an element of sacrifice involved in it. Perforce, you have been forced into it for sure. That's quite interesting what you said.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just take this a little further, because the line I use is, if my friends talk to me now about any problem that they have, I tell
Hmm.
them, you're lucky you have this problem. Stay with it.
Hmm.
Don't let it go very soon. In fact, when they come out of the
Hmm.
problem, the advice that I give them, don't let go of that feeling of incompleteness. That is where the treasure
Hmm.
lies. Because the moment you come back and you start thinking life is hunky dory, then life says,
Hmm.
oh, this guy hasn't got it. I need to give it one more lesson or something.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
So I see it as
Yes.
more as an opportunity to reconfigure your set of circumstances, or what you see as
Hmm.
life, at least in my
Hmm.
case. So every now and
Hmm.
then, like when I had to work from home because my dad had Alzheimer's, but my dad
Hmm.
did not have Alzheimer's when I chose to start working from home. So I
Hmm.
did not see it in a context like that. But when the thing
Hmm.
happened and I needed to take care of him, it became far
Hmm.
more easier because I was anyway working from home.
Hmm.
Suddenly, I saw a wisdom that was not necessarily mine, but that had put me in a position where I could do both. I was making my money, doing my work, but
Hmm.
I could take care of my ailing parent.
Hmm.
At that point,
Hmm.
a sense of humility comes in, that some work is in place, and
Hmm.
I'm a part of a intelligent universe, wise
Hmm.
universe that is using me for its purpose, and uh, it gives me exactly what I need at that point of time.
Hmm.
I may not
Hmm.
understand it. I
Hmm.
may cry. I may rebel. Those things happen. I would not say that they do not. Within the
Yeah, of course they do.
uh, because as a person you want control. As an intelligent
Hmm.
person, and the background that you spoke
Hmm.
of, urban educated milieu,
Hmm.
I like to think that, oh, I have this control. But every now and then, I think my best growth has been when things have
Hmm.
not been in my control. They force me
Hmm.
to relook at the context.
Hmm.
And thankfully,
Hmm.
so far, life is kind. It has been
Hmm.
troubling me
Hmm.
organically well.
Hmm.
So that is
Yeah.
something I would want to share. And thank you so much for joining. I would want to see this episode a couple of times to even understand the depth of discussion we've had. And it's like reconnecting like
Wow.
old
Yes.
times.
Yes. Absolutely. Really feels like that. Quite magical.
Yes.
Yep.
So wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity, Manti, and let me know how else I can help you or support you in the values workshop agenda. I'll be quite happy to do so.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.